The Nerfs are in. We have the officially announced historic rebalances to a number of Boros energy cards. They kind of alluded to this in the coming days. This is going to be effective August 6th on the client. And we got 3 nerfs to existing Boros cards that we'll cover here. Most notably, Ajani has not been touched, which I think personally is the most powerful card in the deck. It's the one that enables the most grind and just pure kind of damage. But let's take a look at what's happening in terms. So galvanic discharge, when once generated 3 energy upon cast, will now only generate 2. So that means it's no longer by itself a 1 mana 3 damage spell from turn 0 or turn 1. This probably makes wizards a little bit more viable. A big thing was playing your 1 to 2 drop that had 3 toughness that just got killed for 1 mana. This might open up creature decks a little bit more. The galvanic discharge was very effective at what it's doing. What this does do is it makes galvanic discharge, where it was once being played in a number of different decks, somewhat relegated to the energy deck, I would say. Just being able to get the scalability of the card, you now need more energy enablers. So that's one thing to kind of note there. Guide of Souls, busted 1 drop, now needs 4 energy to be able to put the 2 counters on it. So previously it was 3 energy. You can kind of prop it off a galvanic. The Ajani kind of gave 2 energy that almost got you there with like Aether Hub maybe on turn 2. There's ways to kind of do it from there. So slows it down a bit. That one will be interesting. It does make static discharge a little bit harder to play, I would say, because you're spending more energy on the guide, but it doesn't really change the evasion. The 2 counters kind of scales things out. A guide now being still 4 toughness makes it even harder for something like a galvanic discharge to kill it in the mirror once it kind of goes off. And then lastly, Ocelot's Pride. 1 mana, 1/1 is now 2 mana. So making it a little bit harder on curve. So you can't necessarily turn 1 it, attack in, and kind of spam the board. You can still do Guide of Souls on 1, Ocelots on 2. Just makes it a little bit slower. So that's something we're going to be interested to see. So they went out, they provide some rationale. I'll link this in the video description in terms. They did not mention Ajani at all. I do think Ajani plus Bombardment is the real busted element of the deck. While there's a number of strong effects, we're seeing this deck take over Modern as well. Ajani with Goblin Bombardment, letting you flip it whenever, gives you the grind, makes sweepers less effective. That makes, in all honesty, some targeted removal less effective as well. There's ways to kind of do it with the 0 becoming a minus. It could potentially only deal damage to creatures as opposed to any target. There's ways to kind of tweak the edges there. It could be transform it at the end of turn. Again, just ways to kind of build the card out to make it a little bit more reasonable. I'm happy that they are addressing this, given the way that we can take a look. It's something like 85% of the meta right now, something ridiculous. So if we're looking at the deck itself, so historic best of 1 today, saying Boros is only 12%. That's definitely not right. 11%, the best of 3, 40%. So still think this is a little off in terms of just effectiveness. This is a very popular deck in terms of just play rate and stuff like that. So I do think it is something that it's good that they kind of made it a little weaker. I just think they went wide instead of just going targeted on, I think, one of the most prevalent cards in the deck. But let me know what you think. I think the deck's still very playable as long as Ajani Bombardment's kind of around. You still have Amp Raptor. You still have a bunch of different tools at your disposal. You still have Flage. Would have been nice to see if they unbanned some stuff or just kind of reverted something like Cauldron Familiar, making it go back. Meathook Massacre would have been a nice counter to these decks, just kind of offsetting the life loss with life gain. Fires of Invention might have opened up some stuff. Honestly, with like Flage going around, it might have been reasonable to bring Uro back as another kind of contender in terms of that similar Titan-esque role, just seeing how the format evolves. But sharing this out, this goes live tomorrow from recording and will be legal only in Historic. You don't need to worry about Timeless. These changes will not cascade over to Timeless, as these are true to paper cards. But let me know your thoughts. Catch you next time.